Hello friends, welcome to the channel. In this video, we will try to understand the concept of public subnet and the private subnet and how they are different from each other. For this, we will be implementing our own virtual private cloud with the name Demo VPC in the CIDR block range as 21.0.0.0/16, and we will be implementing public subnet in one availability zone and the private subnet in other availability zone. And here we will be connecting the public subnet through the root table with the help of internet gateway, and the private subnet will not be connected with the internet gateway. So let's see the complete process in easy steps. Here the first step is to create a virtual private cloud. So we are going to create our own virtual private cloud with the name Demo VPC and the CIDR block range as 21.0.0.0/16. Here 16 is identifying the number of network address bits in this CIDR range. And the next step is to create the internet gateway. Here we are going to create the internet gateway with the name demo-igw. Here IGW is simple notation for the internet gateway. After creation of internet gateway, for the third step here, you need to attach the internet gateway to the demo VPC. And as you create a demo VPC, one root table as one default root table and one network access control list is created by default within your defined VPC. So this is the initial setup you get. And as you delete your defined VPC, custom VPC, the default root table and default network access control list will also be deleted automatically. So before moving to the fourth step, let's create this much setup and then we will move on to the fourth step. Here is our AWS console. So select VPC service. So this is my default setup for the VPC provided by AWS. I am already having one VPC, 6 subnets and one root table defined for this VPC and one internet gateway attached to the default VPC. So this time we are going to create our own VPC. So click on create VPC. And we are not going for VPC and more because we need to create the complete setup by on for learning. We will take this option in later videos. Here VPC only, and give the name as we decided demo-VPC. CIDR range as 21.0.0.0/16. You may also go with 10.0.0. And here the tag is already taken as the name. So create VPC. So the VPC is created. You can check in your VPCs. First VPC without the name is the default VPC, and here is our own VPC. Next step is to check for the default settings. So here we get one root table. So here this is the new root table created or connected with my default VPC. You can check this root table is automatically created for my VPC. This demo VPC, and also one network access control list is created. Here you can check this network access control list is created under the demo VPC, means the VPC created by us. So now let's move to the second step where we want to connect internet gateways. So select the internet gateways from the same VPC dashboard and click on create internet gateway. Give it a name as we decided demo-I internet gateway, and tag is already taken create internet gateway. So the gateway is connected but it is not attached to any VPC. So it is showing the option to attach a VPC. You can also do it later, but let's complete the step as this is our third step. Attach to VPC, select the VPC, this time my VPC or the demo VPC. Attach internet gateway. So now our gateway is created, VPC is created, and both are attached. So here is the list of my gateways, demo IGW, and it is also attached to the demo VPC. Now let's check the fourth step in the list. So here the fourth step is to create 2 subnets in the availability zones. As I am working with North Virginia region, here I am having 6 availability zones. So I am going to work with 2 availability zones only, US East 1A and US East 1B. You may also try with other availability zones. So the fourth step is to create two subnets in different availability zones. So this is the range of my public subnet, and for private subnet I am taking the range as 21.0.2.0/24. Here 24 means number of network bits. I hope you are having the idea of this CIDR block range and how the addresses are taken for classless interdomain routing. If not, the link is given in the description box and you can check the video for the complete details of these classless addresses. So let's quickly create these two subnets in US East 1A and US East 1B. Here the subnets option is available in the VPC dashboard only. Click on create subnet. First of all, you need to select your VPC because we are creating subnet for the custom VPC, that is our demo VPC. So let's name our first subnet as public subnet. And availability zone, as decided, we are going to select US East 1A, and the CIDR block range we are going to take as 21.0.1.0/24 this time. The tag is already taken as a name, and now we are going to add the second subnet, and the second subnet name, as we decided, is private subnet, and availability zone this time we are taking as US East 1B, and the CIDR block range as 21.0.2.0/24, and the tag is already taken. So we have defined the settings for both subnet. One is our public subnet in US East 1A, and the second one is private subnet under US East 1B availability zone. So create subnet. Here both subnets are created, public and private one. Under our demo VPC, you can check the VPC is demo VPC. So here we are done with the fourth step. So let's check the fifth step. So here the fifth step is to create two root tables. One as public root table associated with the public subnet, and one is private root table associated with the private subnet. Root table is going to define the routes for this particular subnet. So let's start. The root tables are also in the VPC dashboard. So select root table. Here we have multiple resources, so let's filter them. We have the option to filter the resources as per the VPC. So let's filter them as per our VPC, and we are selecting the filter as demo VPC. This time we are left with only one root table, and this root table is default root table of our demo VPC. So let's rename it, or you can also create your own root table. So we are going to just rename the default. So let's create it as private root table. So this was the default root table. We just renamed it to use as the private root table. You can also create your own root table. So let's create the root table for the public subnet. And the name for public root table will be public-root table RT. Select the VPC. We are creating under our own VPC, demo VPC. And tag is already taken, and create root table. So the second root table is also created as public root table. So we are now having two root tables under our own VPC. Here filter is demo VPC. Let's check the next step in the process. Here the next step in the process is to define a new route where destination is 0.0.0/0, means any traffic from the internet, and the target will be internet gateway. By this route we are going to connect our public root table with the internet gateway. So this connection is required for public root table only because it has to communicate with the outside internet. And every root table by default is having only one route defined where destination is VPC and the target is local. So we need to add one more rule where the destination is 0.0.0 and target is our internet gateway. And after this sixth step, we need to associate the root tables with the required subnet. Means we have created the root table, but root tables are not associated with any subnet as of now. So we need to associate them with the subnets as well. So public root table will be associated with the public subnet, and the private root table will be associated with the private subnet. So let's start with the sixth and seventh step. Here Let's modify the public route table first. For this, you have actions, edit routes, and here this is the default route for our VPC where target is local. So this route will be common for both route tables, but here as this is our public route table, we need to add one more route. So click on add route. This time your destination is 0.0.0/0 and the target is internet gateway, and we need to select our own internet gateway, demo internet gateway. Just click it and save the changes. So our route tables are ready, means our private route table and public route table both are ready. Next step is to associate them with the required subnet, and for that we have subnet association option. So click on the subnet association. This time I have selected public route table. So subnet association, edit subnet association. You can also go to actions for the edit subnet association and associate the public subnet. As we had selected public subnet, so we need to associate it with the public subnet and save the association. And next step is to select the private route table and go to actions, edit subnet associations, and this time associating it with private subnet and save the association. You can always check the association here. For public subnet, the subnet association is public subnet, and for private route table, the association is private subnet. Here please note, until you define the manual association of route table with the subnet, all the subnets within one VPC are always associated by default with the default route table. As this was our route table, if we had not associated public subnet with public route table, so both the subnets would be associated with the private route table only, because this was our default route table. Now let's check the next step in the process. And the 8th step is to launch the EC2 instance for the public subnet, and the 9th step is to launch EC2 instance in the private subnet. And before moving on to 8th step, let's check this complete setup, as we have created the complete setup with availability zones and the public subnet and the private subnet and the route table. So let's check this complete setup in AWS as well. You can also check the graphical representation of this complete setup. So for this you need to go to your VPC and simply select your VPC, and here you have the option resource map. So click on resource map. By clicking on this, you can see the complete setup that we have just created. So first is our demo VPC. Under this we have two subnets in US East 1A and US East 1B. So this will make the picture more clear to you. And here we have two route tables. One is public route tables connected with our public subnet, private route table connected with our private subnet. And next you can check the connection over here. Our public route table is connected with the internet gateway. So only our public subnet via public route table is connected with the internet gateway. So this is the complete route for the public subnet, as it is connected with the internet gateway through the public route table. But our private route table is not connected with the internet gateway. This subnet, private subnet, is not reachable via internet gateway. So that's why first subnet is our public subnet and other one is not accessible from the outside. So let's launch the EC2 instances as our 8th step and 9th step. EC2, launch instance, firstly we are going to create for public subnet. So public EC2, Amazon Linux AWS, instance type, key pair login, and this time we need to edit the network setting for the selection of VPC and subnet, because we need to assign our own VPC for this particular instance. So edit network settings, select the demo VPC and public subnet, because this is our public instance, so I am going to select the public subnet. auto sign public IP should be enabled, and one security group will be created by default with the name launch wizard 1, and here the inbound security rules defined are SSH. We need not to define any HTTP traffic because we are not launching any application, so SSH is enough, and launch your instance. So one instance is launched. Let's move to your instance. As it is public EC2, let's quickly launch another instance for the private subnet. This time it is private EC2. Let's select the key pair name. Edit network settings. Select your own VPC. This time the subnet will be our private subnet. Auto assign public IP should be enabled. Security group will be created with name launch wizard 2, and we are allowing only SSH traffic, and next step is launch your instance. So we are having the complete setup done with two EC2 instances under private and public subnets. So our both instances are in running state now. So let's try to connect to these two instances, as we have allowed only SSH traffic in the security group. So select your private instance first. Click on connect. You can also try to connect with your command prompt through SSH. So this time we are getting the failure because this instance is private. Although we have allowed for the inbound traffic, but still it is not reachable. We cannot connect to this instance. And second one was our public instance. So let's try to connect this one. Here we are able to connect with our public instance because this is defined within the public subnet connected with the internet gateway. So this is the difference between public and private subnet. You can also try to connect with the SSH through command prompt like we have done in the earlier videos, or you can also try to connect with putty, but you will be able to connect with public instance only, not with the private instance. So that's it for this video. Hope you have learned something. In next video, we will implement application load balancer for the instances launched in different availability zone. So till then, bye and take care.